Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Michigan heading into their bye week, 3-1 record, and I figured now would be a really good time to evaluate what we've seen from this Michigan football team as a whole through 4 games. And we're going to go position group by position group, give out some letter grades, and two things that I think are very noteworthy. Number one, we got a decent sample size, right? You got 2 really tough road trips under our belt, on the road against Oklahoma, on the road against Nebraska. We got some easier home games under our belt, 2 against Central Michigan and New Mexico. There's a decent sample size that's telling us what this football team is up until this point in 2025. Now, here is the more important part of this conversation. As a Michigan fan myself, maybe I got the maize and blue tinted glasses on, but I firmly believe that the best football for Michigan is ahead of them in 2025. Now, most notably, when you have a true freshman at quarterback, I think it's reasonable for us to believe that he gets better as 2025 goes on. Hell, we're already seeing that from Bryce Underwood at the quarterback position. Just as importantly, this is a banged up Michigan team that hasn't had some of their better players the last couple of weeks going into the bye week, getting some really important players back heading into October. That's really important too. Now, what have we seen from this Michigan team? That's what we're going to get into. Before we do, and as always, the Michigan fans, please drop the report cards in the comment section. Part of the beauty of talking this sport is there's a bunch of different ways to evaluate what we've seen. And I'm sure many Michigan fans who've watched every single snap of this football team might have some different letter grades to give out. Please let it fly. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. As a Michigan fan myself, it's been so fun talking this football team the last couple of months, and the amount of support this fan base has shown the boys has been amazing. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, start with Bryce Underwood at quarterback. I gave him a B plus, and I think it's both generous and maybe also hard on Bryce Underwood because as a freshman quarterback in the Big Ten, he's been pretty damn solid. Now, here's the thing that people will point to, and I see it all over social media. It's very frustrating, but it is what it is. When you're talking about a quarterback like Bryce Underwood, people are pointing to the numbers, what they see in the box score. 57% completion percentage, only 2 touchdowns thrown on the year through 4 games. Look, that's low-hanging fruit. And quite frankly, a really bad idea when you want to evaluate quarterbacks. The numbers that I want to focus on the most here, what this offense looks like under Bryce Underwood through 4 games, including a road trip to Oklahoma, including a road trip to Nebraska as well. This is a Michigan offense that is scoring 35 points per game. That is 26 in the country. Even the most optimistic Michigan fans heading into 2025, did you expect Michigan through the first 4 games to be a top 25 scoring offense in the country? Because I consider myself a pretty damn optimistic Michigan fan. I did not expect a top 25 scoring offense. They're averaging 6.9 yards per play. That's 14th best in the country. We all remember what this offense looked like 12 months ago. This is meaningfully different. Outside of that Oklahoma game, this offense has been pretty dang fun to watch. And here's the other thing about Bryce Underwood when you're going to box score stat him is, or I should say box score scout him. The 57% completion percentage is just not an accurate number. The adjusted completion percentage is 71%. Michigan has only thrown the football 102 times, or I should say Bryce Underwood has only thrown the football 102 times. 11 drops. 15.9% drop rate. If you erase the drops that this Michigan offense has experienced, Bryce Underwood's throwing for 71% completion percentage. I think Bryce has been a lot better throwing the football than what the box score will tell you. And so B plus, I think, is really fair. And look, I think we're already seeing this kid get a little bit more comfortable. And if there's one thing we've learned, that the moment's not too big for him. Like on the road against Nebraska, when the moment was the biggest, you saw Bryce Underwood come up with some really big plays. Optimistic that it gets better. I'll give him a B plus to start the season. Number 2, running back position. It's been about as good as any of us imagined. And here's the thing that I love about this running back room is that Justice Haynes is the best of both worlds from what we had last year. Like Donovan Edwards, Kalel Mullings, they were solid running backs, but they weren't very complete running backs. Kalel Mullings was really good between the tackles, really, really good running behind his pads, but kind of lacked that playmaking home run ability. And then Donovan Edwards, he had the home run ability, but wasn't all that good running between the tackles. Justice Haynes, I mean, just take a look at the numbers. He's averaging 8.1 yards per carry. He's averaging 4.7 yards per carry after contact. Justice Haynes has the ability to run the football physically like Kalel Mullings. But when he has the opportunity to go out and hit a home run, he's doing that as well. He's one of the best running backs in the country through the first 4 weeks of the season. Now, the other storyline here is Jordan Marshall's starting to get going. And we all knew, to the Michigan fans who followed this program closely, we knew what Jordan Marshall was capable of because we saw it in that bowl game against Alabama, just a little bit of a slow start. I don't think he got that ball rolling the first 2 weeks. Last 2 weeks against Central Michigan and Nebraska, Jordan Marshall's looking like the running back that we expected. And then you combine Bryce Underwood and throw him into this rushing attack equation. We're looking at a rushing attack that's looking like it might be one of the more dynamic rushing attacks that we see in the country, right? And so we knew giving Bryce a run game was going to be crucial. You're starting to see that run game come alive, and these running backs are doing a phenomenal job, really. And here's the thing with these running backs, they're coming up when the moment's the biggest, right? When we need a play, these running backs are coming up with those plays. Really good 1-2 punch. Justice Haynes has been better than any of us expected. It is a very solid A from this running back room through 4 games. Wide receiver room, probably the most inconsistent room that we've had so far. You've had a lot. I mean, 11 drops is too many, especially through 4 games. I'll give it a C minus because I do think there are some, and I'm going to lump in the tight ends with this conversation too. I think Donovan McCulley's been really good. He has continued to flash, and I would argue, hey, we just got to keep giving him more opportunities in this Michigan offense because it's Don McCulley and it's Marlon Klein. And it's very clear that those are the two not only most reliable, but the two best difference makers that we have in that pass catcher room. Here's the thing with Marlon Klein. Talk about like an underrated guy that we didn't have against Oklahoma. It was Marlon Klein because not only is he a really good pass catcher, he's the most impressive tight end I've seen in the blocking department in the country through the first 4 games. As an inline blocker, as a guy blocking in space. I mean, some of those big plays that Michigan hit against Nebraska on Saturday, they don't happen if Marlon Klein isn't on the football field. The combination of what he does stimulating the run game and also what he can do as a pass catcher, he is really, really important to Michigan, been really damn good through the early parts of 2025. And Channing Goodwin and Samaj Morgan there needs to the best way to put it. I'll backtrack. The best way to put it is we have to find a couple more reliable playmakers in the passing attack. Donovan McCulley, Marlon Klein, that's good. I've been very happy with what we've seen from both of those two cats. Channing Goodwin, the problem with him is that's what he's known for. Channing Goodwin, just a steady wide receiver that catches the footballs that are thrown to him. Well, that's not what we've seen through the first 4 games. He's had 4 drops, right? Samaj Morgan, he's a difference maker, has made some plays for Michigan, but also has 4 drops on the year. Clean up the drops. When Bryce Underwood is hitting you in the hands, and I get he throws some fastballs, we got to make sure we're catching it. And if you can't consistently do that, then we got to figure out who else can come in and do it, right? Freddie Moore is a guy that flashed last year at times. Freshman Andrew Marsh, we know has the talent. Maybe you start seeing some more wide receivers get mixed into the rotation, try to find the wide receivers that we can rely upon the most in the passing attack. Bryce has thrown some really good footballs, and our wide receivers haven't made plays for him enough. And it's one of the storylines, right? If Michigan wants to make the college football playoffs, we got to have our wide receivers go out and make some plays for our freshman quarterback. We haven't quite gotten that yet. If we get that in October, November, this team can be really damn good. All right, offensive line. And I'm probably going to get some pushback, but I'm going to go with a B+ here. I don't think it was nearly as bad as many thought it was against Oklahoma. I think the schematics of the offense were a lot more the problem than was the offensive line. And I'm not getting up here and saying the offensive line was elite in that football game, but they weren't. Or I should say because they weren't. I still think the offensive line has had a very significantly better unit than what we had last year. That's probably where you want to start. And I'll say this, against Nebraska on Saturday, That was probably the best we've seen a Michigan offensive line play probably till that 2023 national championship team. What happens if we get that version of the offensive line, specifically in the run game, over the next couple of weeks? This Michigan offense has a chance to get a lot better. Greg Crippen, his best game by far in his Michigan career. I think Evan Link has played some solid football as well. Jake Quinera has stepped in and played very, very well at guard too. This is an offensive line that I think what excites me the most is I think you're seeing it get better, right? New Mexico it was average, wasn't great against Oklahoma, good against Central Michigan, very good against Nebraska going into a bye week, maybe getting Giovanni El-Hadi back healthy. Going into the rest of 2025, hey, can this offensive line continue to take some steps? That's the question. I think it's been a pretty solid unit, comfortably better than what it was last year. And I'll say this about the offensive line, and it's too early to start talking about 2026. This offensive line in 2026 is going to be really, really good. And I know we lose some guys, Gio, Greg Crippen going to go off. Whether they play in the NFL or not, we'll see. The young cats on this offensive line, because I love it. We haven't seen a ton of Blake Frazier, but I think Blake Frazier is an absolute ball player. I think Jake Quinera has looked really good as a year two guy. We have Babs coming back in 2026. This is an offensive line that should be really damn good over the next couple of years. I'd say it's solid, like B plus for Michigan's offensive line, maybe B. I'll probably knock it to a B because that Oklahoma game wasn't great. B through the first 4 games, ideally getting better. We'll take it. All right, defensive side of the football. This is another, fun conversation to have because by far the best the defensive lines looked against Nebraska. Stopping the run, getting after the passer. Pretty dang clear that we found the way we want to use Jayshon Barham. The biggest storyline coming out of that game against Nebraska, and not to bury the lead, I gave Michigan's defensive line a B plus. The only knock that I have on the defensive line is I felt like it didn't impact the game enough on the road against Oklahoma. I thought that Oklahoma offensive line was gettable, and I thought we didn't impact John Mateer enough just with our front four. Against Nebraska, that was a whole new story, right? Derek Moore's the best Derek Moore's looked all year, comfortably. Same thing for TJ Guy. Same thing for a guy like Rayshon Benny. A lot of Michigan defensive linemen had their best performance of the 2025 season on the road against Nebraska this weekend. Jayshon Barham's the guy that I want to focus on because I look at Jayshon and say what my biggest concern was not his ability to get after the passer if he was going to move to the edge spot. My biggest concern was 2 different things. One, what's he doing against the run as a true edge defender? And then number 2, do we have enough linebackers to make sure we're good there if we're going to move Jayshon Barham permanently to the edge position? Both those questions were answered on Saturday. Thought the linebackers were phenomenal, especially Cole Sullivan. In fact, I think one of the benefits of moving Jayshon Barham out there to the edge is to get a little bit more Cole Sullivan on the field, who I think is one of the better Michigan defenders that we've seen in 2025. The other part is Jayshon Barham is super active against the run. No problem taking on blocks. Always chasing the play down from the backside. He's super active. He's everywhere. He is getting involved in so many different plays from that position, not to mention what he can do getting after the passer. And you add Jayshon Barham to the edge. Well, now on those 3rd and long situations, you can get really creative. You can kick Derek Moore into that 3-tech, kick him inside, and let him work against some guards and centers. I guess the way I would say it with the defensive line is that I feel like Wink Martindale is kind of tapping in to the skill set and versatility that this defensive line has, and you're seeing him get more comfortable with the personnel that Michigan has as well. Off-ball linebacker position, A minus for Michigan's off-ball backers. Ernest Hausman continues to just do Ernest Hausman things. Like, I don't think Ernest Hausman is going to be a top 50 NFL draft pick, but gosh darn it, he is a very, very solid linebacker that is always fitting the run the right way. Jimmy Rolder thought he was really good against Nebraska, really steady football player. Excuse me. And then you inject Cole Sullivan in. Just a playmaker. Like, whenever there's a play to be made for Cole Sullivan, it feels like he's making those plays. And the best benefit of Cole Sullivan is he's allowing you to move Jayshon Barham to the edge, because Cole Sullivan's our 3rd linebacker now, and he probably should be our 2nd linebacker. I mean, and they're not missing tackles is probably the last thing. All of them are sub 12% missed tackle rates through 4 games. Secondary, even though it's really banged up. I mean, you go back and look at that last drive, Nebraska driving on Michigan. Michigan was playing multiple true freshman guys in the secondary. Elijah Dotson was in at times. Jaden Sanders was in the whole game. You saw Shamari Earls in as well. Considering the injuries, I'll give a very, very solid B plus, and only going to get better as we get more healthy in the back end. And hell, I don't even know if Jaden Sanders is going to give up that starting job. The thing with Jaden Sanders that fires me up is he's tackling really well. And that's normally where you see these freshmen struggle, especially in the Big Ten. Hey, you might be able to run with these wide receivers. Can you tackle at the level you need to out in space? Well, shoot, Jaden Sanders certainly showing he can. I think TJ Metcalf's been really damn good as that nickel defender. Brandon Hillman, I know, had a stupid unsportsmanlike penalty. He's been really good for Michigan in the back end, flying downhill, always involved in the run game. And Jaden Mangum's been really solid in the secondary as well. Solid B plus for the secondary. You know, the only position group that I would give a bona fide A to right now is the running back position. But I'm looking at that defensive line. I'm looking at really a lot of different positions on this football team and saying it feels like the steps are going in the right direction for a lot of different position groups on this team. And that's the new storyline for this football team. How much better does Michigan get as we get into the months of October and November? Because I think it's one of those teams that you look at and say, should be getting better as the season goes on. We'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.